Captain Minho Kang stood in the shuttle bay of the Pathfinder, looking at the strangest vehicle he had ever seen. The experimental dimensional phase ship looked more like a piece of abstract art than a spacecraft. Its hull curved and twisted in ways that hurt to look at directly, covered in quantum field generators that Yoonji Song had built from Velkari mathematical equations. "Are you sure this thing will work?" asked Hyewan Lim, the mission's chief engineer. She had spent 3 weeks helping to build the impossible machine, but she still could not believe it would actually function. "Define work," Yoonji replied, making final adjustments to the dimensional controls. "If you mean will it get us to the Velkari, then probably yes. If you mean will we survive the trip, then I honestly don't know." Junseo Baek, the team's best pilot, ran his hands over the ship's strange control systems. Nothing was where it should be. The navigation display showed directions that did not exist in normal space. "I've flown every type of ship humanity has built, but this is completely different. It's like learning to drive by smell instead of sight. The Velkari signal is getting weaker every day," Arium Jang pointed out. She was the team's medical officer, but her real job on this mission was to help any Velkari they might find. If their dimension is really collapsing, we might be their last chance. Captain Minho had volunteered for this mission against direct orders from Earth Command. The politicians wanted more study, more preparation, more guarantees. But Minho knew that sometimes you had to act first and ask permission later. The Velkari had been calling for help for 50,000 years. They could not wait any longer. "All right, people," Minho said, climbing into the pilot seat next to Junseo. "We're going to try something that's never been done before. We're going to punch a hole through reality and visit aliens in their secret hiding place. If anyone wants to change their minds, now would be the time." Nobody moved. They had all volunteered, knowing the risks. "Yoonji, start the dimensional phase generator," Minho ordered. The ship began to vibrate in a way that felt wrong. The air around them seemed to thicken, and colors appeared that had no names. Through the viewports, normal space began to twist and bend. "Phase generator at 20%, Yoonji announced. "Dimensional barriers are weakening." "I'm getting readings on the Velkari signal," Hyewan reported. "It's getting stronger. We're heading in the right direction." 40%, Yoonji called out. "Warning, my instruments are showing dangerous stress on the ship's hull." Junseo fought with the controls as the ship bucked and rolled through forces that should not exist. "This is like flying through a tornado made of mathematics." 60%. "We're approaching the dimensional barrier." Suddenly, the ship lurched violently to one side. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. Through the viewports, they could see cracks appearing in space itself. "Hull breach in Section 4, Arium shouted over the noise. "Ignore it," Minho ordered. "We're committed now. Yoonji, full power." 100%, we're breaking through. The universe exploded around them in a flash of impossible light. For a moment that lasted forever, they existed nowhere and everywhere at once. Then, with a sound like reality tearing, they emerged into a place that was not quite real. The dimensional pocket was smaller than they had expected. It stretched only a few thousand kilometers in each direction, lit by artificial suns that cast shadows in the wrong directions. And everywhere they looked, they saw the Velkari. "My God," Hyewan whispered. The Velkari were beautiful in an alien way. They looked like living crystals, tall and graceful, with bodies that seemed to bend light around them. Their cities floated in the dimensional space without any visible support, connected by bridges of pure energy. But everything was dying. The artificial suns were flickering and going dark. The crystal spires of Velkari cities were cracking and falling into the dimensional void. And the Velkari themselves moved slowly, their light growing dimmer with each passing moment. "We're receiving a transmission," Hyewan announced. On the main screen, a Velkari appeared. Its form was more translucent than the others, and its voice carried the weight of incredible age and sadness. "I am Council Prime Velthera of the Velkari. You should not have come here. Your presence puts your entire species at risk." Minho stepped forward. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." "Help?" Velthara's form flickered with what might have been surprise. You heard our message? But it was transmitted through quantum dimensions that your species should not be able to detect. We heard you, Minho said simply. And we came. For a long moment, Velthara was silent. When it spoke again, its voice was filled with wonder. In 50,000 years of hiding, no one has ever come for us. We thought we were alone. You're not alone anymore, Minho replied. But we need to understand the situation. Can you explain what happened here? Velthara's image wavered as another section of the dimensional pocket collapsed nearby. Long ago, our people detected the approach of the Devourers. They are not merely destroyers. They are reality parasites that consume entire civilizations and use their knowledge to grow stronger. They have been harvesting intelligent life across the galaxy for millions of years. So you hid, Junseo said. We fled to this dimensional pocket using our most advanced technology. We thought we could wait until the Devourers moved on. But we underestimated their persistence. They have remained in our galaxy, systematically hunting for any trace of advanced life. We have been trapped here ever since. And now your hiding place is failing, Arium observed. Yes. Our technology was never meant to sustain an entire civilization for so long. The dimensional barriers are collapsing. Soon, this pocket will implode, and we will die. But perhaps that is for the best. Our quantum signature cannot be allowed to escape. If the Devourers detect us, they will follow our trail back to this galaxy and find every other species that has evolved since we disappeared. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. Other species like humanity? Your people are young but growing quickly. In a few centuries, you will be advanced enough to attract the Devourers' attention. When that happens, they will come for you as they came for us. Then we need to get you out of here, Minho said firmly. If the Devourers are coming anyway, hiding won't save anyone, but together, we might find another solution. Impossible, Velthara replied. Even if you could evacuate our entire population, the energy required would create quantum ripples that the Devourers would detect immediately. The moment we leave this dimension, we doom every species in the galaxy. How many of you are there? Hayawan asked. 2.3 million individuals remain. The human crew exchanged glances. Their ship could carry maybe 50 passengers at most. We'll figure out a way, Minho said. We don't leave people behind. Not even people we just met. Velthara's form brightened slightly. Your species truly is remarkable, but I fear your compassion will be your destruction. Maybe, Minho admitted. But it's also our greatest strength. Give us time to work on this problem. We've solved impossible problems before. As he spoke, another section of the dimensional pocket collapsed. Time was running out, and Minho had just committed humanity to an impossible rescue mission. But, looking at the dying Velkari civilization around him, he knew they had no choice. Some things were worth any risk. Yunji, he said quietly, start working on a solution. We're going to save them all. Outside the ship, the Velkari watched in amazement as these strange young aliens refused to accept defeat. For the first time in 50,000 years, they began to hope. The evacuation had been a miracle. Against all odds, humanity had rescued 2.3 million Velkari from their collapsing dimensional pocket. The quantum chaff had worked perfectly, confusing the Devourers while the real evacuation took place. Now, 3 weeks later, the rescued Velkari were settled in temporary habitats throughout human space. But victory had come at a cost. Sujin Han had sacrificed her experimental ship to save Junseo and the trapped Velkari. She had made it out alive, but barely. Junseo himself spent 2 weeks in medical recovery, his body damaged by exposure to collapsing dimensional forces. Captain, Minho stood in the main conference room of Luna Station, looking out at Earth hanging in the starry void. Velthara's holographic form shimmered beside him, more solid now that the Velkari had access to stable power sources. Your people have given us more than just rescue, Velthara said. You have given us hope. For 50,000 years we believed. We were doomed to die in hiding. Now we have a chance to live again. It's not over yet, Minho replied. The Devourers are still out there, and now that we've helped you escape, we need to understand what we're really facing. Admiral Tae Min. Lee entered the room with a grim expression. Velthara, we need to know everything. No more secrets, no more protecting us from difficult truths. If we're going to survive this, we need complete information. Velthara's form flickered with what might have been reluctance. Very well. But understand that knowledge of the Devourers has driven entire civilizations to despair. Are you certain you wish to learn? We're certain, Admiral Lee said firmly. Velthara activated a holographic display that filled the entire room. What appeared was a nightmare made of data and mathematics. The Devourers are not a single species. They are a collective consciousness made up of absorbed civilizations. Every species they have consumed becomes part of their knowledge base. They have the combined intelligence of millions of worlds. Chang Min Yoon, the station's lead scientist, studied the data with growing horror. They're not just killing civilizations, they're stealing their minds. Correct. When the Devourers encounter an advanced species, they do not simply destroy them. They analyze their technology, decode their biology, and absorb their collective knowledge. The species dies, but their intelligence becomes part of the Devourer collective. How many civilizations have they absorbed? Asked Dr. Nara Kim, the Strategic Defense Coordinator. Our estimates suggest at least 10,000 species over the past 5 million years. Perhaps many more. Each absorption makes them stronger, smarter, and more dangerous. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Admiral Lee spoke. How do they operate? What's their pattern? They move through the galaxy in cycles, roughly 50,000 years apart. They allow time for new intelligent species to evolve and advance, then return to harvest them. It is a carefully managed process, like farming. And they're coming. Back now because it's harvest time, Minho said. Yes. Our analysis indicates they began their return journey approximately 50 years ago. They will reach the core inhabited systems within decades. Chang Min pulled up his own data files. We've been tracking unusual gravitational signatures in the outer galaxy. Based on what you're telling us, those aren't natural phenomena. They're the Devourers. How big are they? Nara asked. Velthara's image wavered. Each Devourer construct is approximately the size of a small moon. They are partially biological, partially technological, and partially something else that we never fully understood. They can reshape matter at the molecular level and manipulate space-time itself. How many constructs are there? Admiral Lee asked. In our encounter 50,000 years ago, we detected at least 50 individual constructs. But our data suggests they can divide and multiply when they encounter sufficient resources. Dr. Kim ran calculations on her tablet. If they're the size of moons and there are 50 or more of them, the combined mass would be... She paused, checking her numbers. This is impossible. They should have enough gravitational influence to disrupt entire star systems. They exist partially outside normal space-time, Velthara explained. They can reduce their gravitational footprint when necessary. It is part of what makes them so difficult to detect and defend against. What about weapons? Asked General Bora Shin, who had joined the meeting via holographic link from Earth. Surely something that large must have weaknesses. We tried everything. Nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, gravitational disruptors. Nothing we built could even scratch their hull material. And they adapted to our tactics faster than we could develop new ones. Because they have the knowledge of every species they've ever absorbed, Changmin realized. They know every possible weapon design, every defensive strategy. Precisely. Fighting the Devourers with conventional tactics is futile. They have seen it all before. Admiral Lee walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Then how do we survive? There has to be something we can do. There are 3 options, Velthara said. Hide as we did. Run to another galaxy, though they would likely follow eventually. Or what? Find a way to break their cycle. In 5 million years, no species has ever successfully fought the Devourers. But no species has ever tried what your people are attempting. What do you mean? Minho asked. Cooperation. The Devourers have always faced individual species fighting alone. They analyze one civilization, absorb it, and move on to the next. They have never encountered a coordinated defense by multiple species working together. Nara looked up from her tactical analysis. You're suggesting an alliance. Every intelligent species in the galaxy working together against the Devourers. It has never been tried. Most species never even know the Devourers exist until it is too late. By the time they are detected, the harvest has already begun. But we know they're coming, Admiral Lee said. We have advance warning, and we have proof that cooperation is possible. He gestured toward Velthera. We saved your people by working together. There's another factor, Changmin added. Humanity is still relatively primitive compared to most galactic civilizations. The Devourers might not consider us a priority target yet. That gives us time, Minho said. Time to contact other species, time to build alliances, time to prepare. Velthara's form brightened. There is wisdom in this approach. But you should know that many species will refuse to cooperate. Fear makes civilization selfish. Most will choose to hide rather than fight. Then we convince them, Admiral Lee said simply. We show them what humans showed you, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up for others. And if they still refuse, then we fight without them. But we fight. Humanity didn't survive this long by running away from problems. As the meeting continued, plans began to form. Contact teams would be sent to every known intelligent species. Defense strategies would be developed using combined human and Velkari knowledge. And for the first time in 5 million years, the galaxy would prepare to fight back against the Devourers. But in the back of everyone's mind was a terrible question. What if their cooperation and courage wasn't enough? What if the Devourers were simply too powerful to defeat? Outside the station windows, the stars continued to shine, unaware that a war for the survival of all intelligent life was about to begin. And somewhere in the darkness between those stars, ancient hunters were moving closer, ready to harvest another crop of civilizations. The galaxy would never be the same. Hyunwoo Park rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the glowing screens around him. The night shift at Jupiter Station was always quiet. Too quiet. Most of the time he just watched empty space and listened to the endless static of the universe. Tonight felt different, though. Something was wrong with the usual patterns. The coffee in his cup had gone cold hours ago. Hyunwoo worked alone in the communications room while the rest of the crew slept. His job was simple. Watch for signals from Earth, keep an eye on the automated systems, and wake someone if anything important happened. Nothing important ever happened during the night shift. But tonight, buried deep in the cosmic noise, something was calling. At first it looked like a computer error. The signal was so faint that the main systems ignored it completely. Hyunwoo only noticed it because he was bored and decided to dig deeper into the background data. What he found made him sit up straight in his chair. Hidden in the static was a pattern, not random noise but something organized, something that looked almost like math. Hyunwoo's heart started beating faster. He ran the signal through different filters, cleaned up the interference, and enhanced the weak parts. The more he worked on it, the clearer it became. This was not natural. This was not an accident. Someone or something was trying to communicate. The problem was that the signal was impossible. It was coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The computers could not figure out where it started. It seemed to exist in the spaces between normal radio waves, like a whisper between words. Hyunwoo looked at the clock. 3 hours, until the morning shift arrived. He could wait and report this to his supervisor, or he could try to understand it himself. The signal was getting weaker. If he waited, it might disappear forever. He decided to call So-Young Kim. So-Young was the station's expert on alien languages. She had spent years studying how different species might communicate. Most people thought her work was useless since humans had never found any aliens. But Hyunwoo had always liked talking to her about the possibilities. So-Young, I know it's late, but I need you to look at something, Hyunwoo said into his communicator. What is it now, Hyunwoo? Another false alarm? So Young's voice was sleepy but not angry. She was used to Hyunwoo's late-night discoveries. This is different. I think someone is trying to talk to us. 20 minutes later, So Young arrived in the communications room wearing her pajamas and a thick jacket. Her black hair was messy from sleep, but her eyes were bright with curiosity. "Show me," she said. Hyunwoo played the cleaned-up signal. It sounded like music mixed with mathematics. Long tones followed by short bursts, then silence, then the pattern repeated. But each time it repeated, it was slightly different. So Young listened for a long time without speaking. She took notes on her tablet and asked Hyunwoo to play certain parts again. Finally, she looked up with excitement in her eyes. "Hyunwoo, this is incredible. Look at these patterns. They're using prime numbers, but not in any way I've seen before. And these frequency changes, it's like they're trying to show us mathematics from a completely different perspective." "So it really is a message?" "More than that. It's a message that assumes we're intelligent enough to understand math, but different enough that they need to explain their version of it first. This is how you try to talk to aliens." They worked together for the next 2 hours, breaking down the signal piece by piece. The mathematics was strange but logical. Whoever was sending this message was definitely intelligent, and they were definitely not human. As the sun began to rise outside the station's windows, they made a breakthrough. Hidden in the mathematical patterns was something that looked like language. Not human language, but something with structure and meaning. "I think I can translate parts of it," So Young said, her fingers flying over her tablet. "It's rough, but here's what I'm getting. We are something I can't translate. Our voice carries only in the another unknown word. If anyone finds this, we are," and then something that might mean dying, or ending, or fading. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. "It's a distress call. Keep going," So Young said, still working on the translation. "There's more. We cannot probably escape. We were wrong to," and then a word that might mean hide or run away. And then it repeats. They sat in silence for a moment, looking at the translation on So Young's screen. Somewhere out there, someone was calling for help. Someone was dying, and their last act was to send a message into the void, hoping that anyone might hear it. "Where is it coming from?" So Young asked. Hyunwoo pulled up the tracking data. "That's the weird part. The computers can't locate the source. It's like the signal exists between dimensions or something. The math says it should be impossible. Unless they're not broadcasting from normal space," So Young said slowly. "What if they're somewhere else? Somewhere we can't normally reach?" Before Hyunwoo could answer, his supervisor, Commander Jin-Ho Lee, walked into the communications room. He was a strict man who did not like surprises during his morning briefing. "Park, why is Dr. Kim here? And why do you both look like you haven't slept?" Hyunwoo and So Young exchanged glances. "How do you tell your commanding officer that you might have discovered aliens?" "Sir, we've detected what appears to be an artificial signal. It shows signs of intelligence and mathematical understanding. We believe it may be a distress call from an unknown species." Commander Lee's expression did not change. He had heard many false alarms during his career. "Show me." They played the signal and explained their translation. Commander Lee listened without interrupting. When they finished, he was quiet for a long time. "You're telling me that aliens are calling for help and only we heard them?" "It seems that way, sir," So Young said. "The signal is incredibly faint and uses a transmission method we've never seen before. Most monitoring stations wouldn't even detect it." Commander Lee walked to the window and looked out at Jupiter's swirling clouds. "If this is real, if someone out there really needs help, then we have a responsibility to act. But if you're wrong, if this is just some strange natural phenomenon, then we're about to waste a lot of time and resources." He turned back to them. "I'm sending this up the chain of command. Both of you will prepare detailed reports. And Park?" "Yes, sir." "Good work. If this turns out to be real, you might have just changed everything." As Commander Lee left the room, Hyunwoo and So Young looked at each other. They had started the night thinking they were alone in the universe. Now they might be the only ones who could help save someone else. The signal continued to whisper from the void. growing weaker with each passing hour. Admiral Tae-Min Lee had seen many strange reports cross his desk during his 30 years of service. Most turned out to be nothing important. But the file from Jupiter Station was different. The signal analysis, the mathematical patterns, and the desperate translation all pointed to one impossible conclusion. Someone was out there, and they needed help. 3 days after Hyunwoo's discovery, Admiral Lee stood in the briefing room aboard the experimental ship Pathfinder. Around the table sat the best minds in human space exploration. Each had been chosen for their specific skills and their ability to keep secrets. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Lee began, "what I'm about to show you is classified at the highest level. As of yesterday, we are no longer alone in the universe." Ji-Hoon Choi, the team's theoretical physicist, raised an eyebrow. He was young but brilliant, known for solving problems that others thought were impossible. "Admiral, with respect, we've had false alarms before." "Not like this," Admiral Lee replied. He activated the room's holographic display and played the alien signal. The strange musical mathematics filled the room. Yoon-ji Song, the team's dimensional engineer, leaned forward in her chair. She had spent years studying theoretical ways to travel between dimensions. Most people thought her work was pure fantasy. "This transmission method is fascinating." "It's not coming through normal space-time." "Explain," Admiral Lee said. "The signal appears to be transmitted through quantum entanglement across multiple dimensional layers. It's like they're broadcasting from a place that exists next to our universe but not in it. We can hear it, but we can't see where it's coming from." Dong Hyun-Yu, the military strategist, crossed his arms. He was a practical man who thought in terms of threats and opportunities. "Why would someone broadcast from another dimension?" "Maybe they're hiding," Ji-Hoon suggested. "If you wanted to avoid detection, broadcasting from dimensional space would be nearly impossible to trace." Admiral Lee nodded. "Our translation teams have made progress on the message. It appears to be a distress call from a species calling themselves the Velkari. But here's where it gets interesting." The holographic display changed to show historical data files. Ancient astronomical records, archaeological findings, and theoretical papers filled the air around them. Computer analysis found references to the Velkari in our oldest deep space observations. They appeared in our telescopes about 50,000 years ago as an advanced civilization in the Kepler 442 system. Then they vanished overnight. No trace, no explanation. Until now, we assumed they had destroyed themselves. "But they didn't," Yoon-ji said, understanding dawning in her voice. "They hid. The question is, what were they hiding from?" Admiral Lee touched a control and the display changed again. This time it showed gravitational anomalies, unexplained energy signatures, and patterns of stellar destruction stretching across the galaxy. 3 months ago, our deep space monitoring arrays detected unusual movement in the outer galaxy, large-scale gravitational disturbances moving in organized patterns. We thought they were natural phenomena until we started mapping them. The holographic display showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked areas of disturbance, creating a pattern that was clearly artificial. Something big is coming this way, something that moves from star system to star system in a methodical pattern. And according to the Velkari message, they've been hiding from whatever this is for 50,000 years. Ji-Hoon studied the data with growing alarm. "Admiral, if I'm reading this correctly, these disturbances are moving toward inhabited systems, including ours." "That's correct. Our analysis suggests that whatever the Velkari are hiding from will reach human space within 50 years. Maybe less." Dong-hyun leaned back in his chair. "So let me understand this. 50,000 years ago, an advanced alien species decided to hide in another dimension rather than face some kind of threat. Now that threat is coming toward us and the aliens are calling for help." "That's the situation," Admiral Lee confirmed. "What do we know about this threat?" Yoon-ji asked. Admiral Lee hesitated. "Not much. The Velkari call them the Devourers in their messages. Based on the gravitational patterns, they appear to be massive, possibly artificial constructs. They move from system to system, and after they leave, those systems go dark. No radio signals, no energy signatures, nothing." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Ji-Hoon spoke up. Admiral, how are we supposed to help the Velkari? We don't even know how to reach them. That's what you're here to figure out, Admiral Lee replied. Yunji, I need you to work on the dimensional transmission problem. Can we send a message back to them? Can we open a doorway to wherever they're hiding? It's theoretical, Yunji said slowly. But the quantum entanglement patterns in their signal might provide a roadway. If I can reverse engineer their transmission method, we might be able to establish two-way communication. Do it. Ji-hoon, I need you to study the Devourer movement patterns, find out where they're going next and how much time we have. Yes, sir. Dong-hyun, start working on defensive strategies. Assume we'll be facing an enemy with superior technology and unknown capabilities. Admiral, Dong-hyun said carefully, shouldn't we consider the possibility that helping the Velkari might make us a target? If these Devourers are looking for advanced civilizations, contacting aliens might not be the smartest move. Admiral? Lee stood up and walked to the room's large window. Outside, stars twinkled in the vast darkness of space. Each point of light represented a sun, possibly with planets, possibly with life. All of it potentially threatened by something humanity had never encountered. That's a fair point, Commander. But I've been thinking about this for 3 days, and I keep coming back to the same conclusion. If the Devourers are systematically destroying civilizations, then we're already targets. Our radio signals have been broadcasting into space for over a century. If they're looking for us, they'll find us whether we help the Velkari or not. He turned back to face the team. But if we help the Velkari, we might gain allies. We might learn something that could save not just them, but ourselves and every other species in this galaxy. There's another factor to consider, Yoonji added. The Velkari have been hiding successfully for 50,000 years. They're dimensional. Technology is far beyond ours. If we can learn from them, we might have options we don't even know about yet. Ji-hoon nodded. And their signal is getting weaker. Dr. Kim thinks their hiding place might be failing. If we're going to help them, we need to act quickly. Admiral Lee sat back down. All right, people, we have our mission. Figure out how to contact the Velkari, learn everything we can about the Devourers, and develop strategies to protect ourselves, and anyone else who might need help. Sir, Dong-hyun said, what if Earth Command disagrees with this approach? What if they order us to focus only on human defense? Then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Admiral Lee replied. But I believe that humanity's greatest strength has always been our willingness to help others. If we abandon that now in the face of our greatest challenge, then maybe we don't deserve to survive. As the meeting broke up and the team dispersed, to their workstations, Admiral Lee remained at the window. Somewhere out there, an ancient species was dying in a place between dimensions. Somewhere else, an unknown enemy was moving toward all the life in the galaxy. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Lee felt like he was facing a problem that might be too big to solve. But he also knew that giving up was not an option. Humanity would find a way or they would die trying. The universe had suddenly become a much more dangerous place. Dr. Soo Jin-han had not slept in 3 days. Her laboratory aboard the Pathfinder looked like a hurricane had hit it. Charts covered every wall, holographic equations floated in the air, and half-built devices scattered across every surface. She was trying to solve a problem that the most advanced species in the galaxy had considered impossible. The quantum masking field theory is sound, she muttered to herself, adjusting another calculation. But the power requirements are insane. Engineer Woo Jin Park looked up from his own workstation. He had been collaborating with Velkari scientists through their dimensional communication system, trying to merge human engineering with alien technology. How insane. We'd need the power output of a small star just to mask the quantum signature of one Velkari transport ship, Soo-jin replied. And we need to evacuate over 2 million people. Woo Jin rubbed his tired eyes. What if we don't mask each ship individually? What if we create one massive masking field that covers the entire evacuation route? That would require even more power, and perfect synchronization across multiple ships. One small mistake, and the Devourers would detect everything. On the main screen, Velthara appeared with an update from the dimensional pocket. The ancient Velkari leader looked more translucent than before. its crystal body flickering like a dying light bulb. The dimensional collapse is accelerating, Velthara reported. We estimate 6 days before total structural failure. After that, our pocket will implode and take us with it. 6 days, Sujin whispered. Even with unlimited resources, designing and building an evacuation system in 6 days should be impossible. Dr. Han, Velthara continued, please understand that we are grateful for your efforts, but you must not sacrifice your ship and crew for us. When the time comes, you should save yourselves. Not happening, Captain Minho said firmly from the bridge. We came here to rescue you, and that's what we're going to do. Back on Earth, Admiral Taemin Lee was having the fight of his life with Earth Command. He stood in the council chamber, facing angry politicians and nervous military leaders, trying to explain why humanity should risk everything for aliens they had just discovered. Admiral, this is madness, declared President Yan Su-cho. You're asking us to reveal our most advanced technology and potentially expose Earth to an enemy we don't understand. Madam President, we're going to face the Devourers eventually, whether we help the Velkari or not. This might be our only chance to gain allies and learn how to fight them. Or it might get us all killed, argued General Bo-Ra-Shin. If these Devourers are as dangerous as the aliens claim, maybe we should focus on hiding rather than fighting. Admiral Lee pulled up the holographic display showing Devourer movement patterns. Hiding didn't work for the Velkari. It won't work for us either. These creatures have been hunting civilizations for millions of years. They know every trick in the book. What exactly are you proposing? Asked the President. Full mobilization. Every available ship, every advanced technology we have. We create a quantum masking corridor that allows the Velkari to escape their dimensional pocket without being detected. The power requirements alone would drain our entire fleet, General Shin pointed out. Then we build more power sources. We have the best engineers in human space, and now we have Velkari knowledge to help us. President Cho stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth's oceans. Admiral, if we do this and fail, we might attract the Devourers to Earth decades earlier than predicted. If we do nothing and let the Velkari die, we lose our best chance of learning how to survive what's coming, Admiral Lee replied. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. After a long pause, President Cho turned back to face the room. You have 48 hours to present a detailed plan. If it's feasible, you'll have whatever resources you need. Meanwhile, in the dimensional pocket, Junseo Bayek was making his third trip between the failing alien world and normal space. Each journey was more dangerous than the last, as the dimensional barriers weakened. Transport successful, he reported as his ship emerged into normal space with 50 Velkari refugees aboard. But the dimensional interface is becoming unstable. I'm not sure how many more trips I can make. How are our passengers? Asked Arum Jung. Scared but alive. They've never been outside their dimensional pocket. Normal space is terrifying. To them. The rescued Velkari huddled together in the ship's cargo bay, their crystal bodies dim with fear. They had spent 50,000 years in hiding, and now they were more exposed than ever. Velthara appeared on the communication screen. Junseo, you must stop these individual rescues. Each trip weakens our dimensional barriers further. You're putting both our people and yours at risk. I'm not leaving anyone behind, Junseo replied stubbornly. We'll figure out the mass evacuation, but until then, I'm getting as many of your people out as possible. Back in her laboratory, Sujin had a breakthrough. Wu Jin, what if we don't try to mask the quantum signature at all? What do you mean? What if we create so many false signatures that the real one gets lost in the noise, like hiding a tree in a forest? Wu Jin's eyes lit up. Quantum chaff. We generate thousands of fake Velkari signatures across the galaxy. The Devourers won't know which ones are real. Exactly. And while they're investigating false leads, we evacuate the real Velkari to a safe location? It's brilliant, Wu Jin said. But we'd need ships positioned across the entire galaxy to generate the false signatures. We use automated probes, launch them from every human colony, program them to mimic Velkari quantum signatures, and activate them all simultaneously. On high, the bridge, Captain Minho received an urgent communication from Admiral Lee. Minho, Earth Command has approved the evacuation plan. We're sending every available ship to your location. How many ships? Minho asked. The entire human space fleet. 300 vessels, including experimental craft that haven't even finished testing yet. Minho felt a surge of pride in his species. When faced with an impossible choice, humanity had chosen to risk everything for strangers. Admiral, what's the timeline? 72 hours. We're launching quantum chaff probes across the galaxy as we speak. When they activate, you'll have a narrow window to evacuate the Valkyrie before the Devourers realize they've been tricked. In the dimensional pocket, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Entire Valkyrie cities were disappearing as sections of their reality collapsed. The population was gathering at evacuation points, but many were refusing to leave. We have lived here for 50,000 years, one Valkyrie elder told Velthara. This is our home. Perhaps it is better to die here than to risk the safety of the galaxy. The young humans are risking everything to save us, Velthara replied. The least we can do is trust their judgment. As the countdown to evacuation began, Junseo made one final individual rescue run. This time, his target was a group of young Valkyrie who had been cut off when their city section collapsed. I can see them, he reported, maneuvering his ship through the unstable dimensional space. But the pocket is collapsing around them. Junseo, abort the mission, Captain Minho ordered. It's too dangerous. Negative, I can reach them. The dimensional space twisted around Junseo's ship as he pushed through the collapsing reality. His instruments screamed warnings as the hull began to crack under impossible stresses. Got them, he announced as the young Valkyrie materialized aboard his ship, heading back to the exit point. But as he turned to leave, the dimensional pocket suffered a catastrophic collapse. The exit point vanished, leaving Junseo trapped with his passengers. Junseo, report, Minho called. I'm trapped, Captain. The dimensional exit collapsed. I'm going to try to create a new one, but my ship's drive is damaged. In her laboratory, Sujin watched the disaster unfold on her monitors. Without hesitation, she grabbed an experimental dimensional device she had been working on. Woojin, take the controls, I'm going after him. Sujin, that device hasn't been tested. Then I guess this is the test. As Sujin's rescue ship disappeared into the collapsing dimensional pocket, the main evacuation fleet arrived at the coordinates. 300 human ships hung in space, ready to attempt the impossible. The greatest rescue mission in human history was about to begin.